Thank you for joining me for another episode of this podcast. My name is Yahya, and joining with me today is Abdullah. He's currently interning as a marketing assistant at Miss Toronto. Did I get that right?
Yeah, yeah. It's like
Uh,
a volunteer position.
gotcha. So I know his schedule is usually pretty packed, so I really do appreciate your chunk of time today.
No, it's no worries. Like I have pretty flexibility with my time right now. It's the summer, so it's no biggie.
Gotcha. And let's start off with just asking, what specialization are you thinking of doing?
Yeah, so we were talking about this a little bit off camera, but like do you mean coursework or career path?
Career path.
Probably like what interests me so far is the accounting courses at Schulich. I did not expect me to like them, but they were pretty interesting. And the cases and all that, I thought it would just be like, sitting down, recording like stuff you're not really thinking about, like a brainless job, but it's actually very analytical. So accounting, shockingly was interesting to me. And I am thinking about going down that pathway, but then also consulting because I like the client aspect, and I think even because it's a more speaking role and a more analytical role, that's kind of what speaks to me more. But then again, I'm not too sure because I haven't had any real experience with either of them, right? But you can have like a trajectory of where you think you want to go, and then you can explore that by talking to people and getting some experience similar to that. So that's the stage I'm at right now.
And I know since you haven't done internships per se, how do you feel like you will get that experience of accounting or consulting that will make you choose that one path?
Yeah, so first of all, I think it's important when you get in university, you try to get any sort of transferable skills you can. A great way of doing that is joining clubs, of course. What even Shula clubs, they have like a finance team, they have a more analytical team, a more sales-oriented team. So that's like a good step to get some experience that can help you getting an internship in the future. And then also you have to smartly network because if you don't have direct experience, right, you need something that'll get your foot in the door. The interviews I've had, they came through not really just cold applying, but through either referral or like some event that got me the interview. And I think going forward, that's probably the best way to try to find some experience that'll be good for you. Even all my friends, like for first years, it's especially hard to get in through cold applying. Everyone got in because they talked to someone, it worked out, and that's how they're getting their experience. And once you get experience, you can build on that. But the same techniques I think would apply.
And I know you completed your first year, as you said too. How did you find first year? What did you like, dislike? Like, tell me your view on it.
So yeah, anything specific you want me to talk about regarding first year, like academics or?
Let's talk about, yeah, sure. Let's go for academics.
Okay, so yeah, the university marking scheme is definitely very different from high school, right? In high school, if you perform something or do something that's really good, you'll get a 90, right? But in university, how it works is if you perform something really good, but everyone else also performed really good, you'll get a 70 because then that's the average, right? So the marketing scheme gets a little bit of getting used to, but it's really knowing each course and the strategies for each course if you want to succeed that way. Workload wise, I'd say it's very manageable. I know friends who are even working while studying, right? So I wouldn't say it's unmanageable at all. I think that's a good thing. If you are wise with your time, you're doing at least a little bit every day, or well, I took obviously like a few days off every now and then, but not like 8 hours a day. But if you do a little bit of work every day, you should be good. I think that's the key. So time management, knowing the strategies for courses is sort of what'll get you that academic success.
And for extracurriculars, how did you feel like first year went for you in terms of that?
Yeah, so during for most of first year, I was just volunteering there as a marketing organizer at Mist, and so I had to balance that with my school. But it was good experience, and as I said, it's manageable. Learning how to use social media was a pretty big account, even if you compare it to other Schulich clubs, and being able to collaborate and all that, it was good experience. But then towards May, they started opening up more opportunities, right, for recruitment. So the second semester, I'd say, was a lot of applying to different clubs and getting interviews. And like me and you, we got in 180 Degrees Consulting, and then I also got into Business Law Association. Uh, so all that was, it was sort of like gives you practice for even real internships and how you're going to interview and what your strategy is going to be for real internships. But the actual work for both those clubs, it's just getting started, right? Like in the summer. So second semester was a lot of just actually applying to clubs so that in the summer and then in second year, you get to work on your roles.
And just out of curiosity, what made you go into business when you were in high school?
So I knew in grade 11, I took biology and I took chemistry, and then I also took math courses and business courses because I didn't know, okay, do I want to go science side? Do I want to go business law side? Because law is pretty big in my family. And I knew like business law would sort of be a good career path. But in grade 11, I really enjoyed, like I got good marks in all of them to be honest, but the work I did in biology, I didn't really find very interesting. So at that time, I realized, okay, if I don't find a high school course very interesting, I don't think this is the career path for me. Because in Canada, like if you want to be a doctor, it's super hard, right? Everyone knows that. So the people who are going to succeed are the ones really passionate about it. Not to say that most people aren't passionate. I'm sure they are, but you need that passion to keep going and compete with all these other individuals who really want to get in med school. And I knew that if I don't have that, it's not worth pursuing. So then in grade 11, I dropped my chemistry course before even taking it. So I honestly don't know because then I decided, okay, let's get into business because even for law school, you need an undergrad first. And I chose business because it's a good degree. You know, I see a lot of people who might want to go into law choose a degree that might not benefit them in the future. I didn't want to be that guy because I don't want to lock myself in law if I don't like it, you know.
Is there anything about Schulich you disliked when you finished your first year?
This is gonna be kind of controversial, but I'll say like I think it was a little the courses might have been a little too okay, I don't want to sound arrogant, but I feel like some of the courses might have been a little too easy, whereas I kind of wanted a little bit of some more challenging stuff. Like I wish we had finance first year. I understand why they did it, but like the reason why I say that is because then when you're applying to your internships or you're reading business articles, you have that knowledge where you understand what's going on. Whereas right now we're kind of stalled. We're like, oh, you have to wait till year two till you get into finance and you know all that. I'm like, okay, but like that's a really important part of business. Like I wish I knew the terminologies. And the people who succeed a lot at Schulich are the people who are in YFC York Finance Club because they research the terms to get in, right? They research, they know about the industry, the concepts, and I think I wish we had some more challenging courses that weren't very general.
Yeah, that would like pretty nicely segue to my next question. If you were like to restart first year, what would you do differently?
I think a lot what I started doing second semester, I would start doing first semester. And that's like the stuff you talked about, like resume building, speaking to upper years, speaking to uh, normal people working at the company, like just chatting with them. I started learning that more in second semester because like first semester is like you're sort of getting introduced to everything. I think if you had that knowledge going in, or if you had researched that knowledge going in, or if you had spoken to people who could help you out in that going in, it would have been a much better process. But I don't really have like regrets because it's all just a learning process, right? Like I'm glad I know specific information I do now that I didn't know before, and then I can just apply that going into the future. But other than that, no like big like regrets, honestly. Just some things that I'm like, oh, if only I knew this at that time, I would have been able to do that.
Yeah, for sure. I think most people usually don't feel like they could like get an internship in first year too, because other people around them tell them, "Oh, getting an internship in first year is almost impossible," and that kind of like already closes gates
Yeah, it's
without you knowing.
Yeah, that's actually very like yeah, I agree with you. Like that shouldn't have been what first years were told, because it's definitely possible. Like getting your foot in the door and then landing the interview and then you're on the same playing field as everyone else. To be honest, like what would you say your biggest regret was?
Probably just upper years or what else? Haven't really thought about this to be honest. I've been asking others, but like I don't really think about it myself.
What are some interesting things others have said?
Some people said like in terms of regrets, yeah, like basically what you were kind of saying, like not starting off earlier. And for finance people, I've seen that they wanted to start the guides or learning about finance like in first year. Because like for them, recruitment's crazy. Like they're already
Yeah.
recruiting for summer 2024. So I think it depends on what specialization you're in, but I think the major regret that everyone kind of has is just not leveraging their upper years more. That's what I've heard.
Yeah, the finance guys, they're like they're like super in it. Like I was shocked, like the environment was totally shocking when I first entered business school. Like me, I didn't even know what the big four was going in. Like, you know what I mean? I did not have a lot of business knowledge. But then these finance kids who want to go into that, they know from like grade seven that this is what I want to do. And I'm like, why? Who told you that? Where do you like what? I didn't even know that was a thing like that people aspire to be, you know, oh, I can't wait to go into Wall Street. I'm like, wow, okay. And they know the game going in first year. I'm like, where did you learn this information from, by the way? I talked to this one friend. He's going into his first year university now. And I'm like, bro, like, I don't understand. How are you so in tune with everything? You're just in grade 12. And he was like, bro, like it's my family. Like my brother went into that, my dad went into that. I'm like, okay, well, that makes sense. Cause like my brothers and my dad is a lawyer, my brother's in law school. So I kind of know more about like the law aspect. And I guess in that way, I'm kind of like the finance bros where I sort of know like the pathway. So I guess it is family and like the influence they have.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know, most of us are kind of like naive to like the business paths that we have. Like for me personally, I thought business was just like marketing or just making a profit, right? But then there's like consulting, there's accounting, there's finance. It's crazy. Like once you see the specializations and when you ask around what people are interested in, it really broadens your view of business just being selling something, making profit to like such a huge aspect
Yeah, like
of someone's career.
totally. I didn't know any of that going in. Like I knew, okay, accounting is a career path, marketing is a career path. I didn't know about all the different categories there are in finance and then consulting. I like that was all new to me. So like that's what I'm saying. Like going in first year, if I had known that, it would have been way easier for like this year recruiting. But it's okay because then I learned it on. I'm at least happy like I learned it pretty fast. Like I'm still not lacking in that department.
And I know within first year too, sometimes there is a bit of FOMO or imposter syndrome that there is always someone doing better than you within your cohort. How do you feel like you kind of dealt with that issue?
Yeah, just don't be comparing yourself to others. Like that doesn't mean don't like learn from others. Like that, I was having a conversation with someone yesterday who's like popping off in a certain department, and uh, I was like asking him questions like to learn from him, right? And that's the thing. Like, don't bring envy into it, where you're like, oh my God, they're doing so well. Why am I not doing that well? And then you feel down about yourself. That's not the right way. Think of it as an opportunity. Like, what can I learn from this person to improve myself? And look at where you're at. And then 6 months, this is the key, right? Even when you go, like I go to the gym, and this is the key. Look at where you're at. And then 6 months later, look at where you're at compared to where you were before. Because if you look at where you're at, if you look at someone else, right? If 6 months later you look at someone else, you might not see any progress because you're like, what? I've gone from this to this, but that person did that. So that's the thing. Improvement is improving yourself, right? So look at your specific circumstances. Where were you at before? Where are you at now? If you start looking at other people, it's not gonna it you're gonna feel like you've made no progress when you have. So be giving yourself credit. And for people who might be doing better than you in something, learn from them, right? Take that as an opportunity to learn. What are they doing differently that I can implement, not as a oh I'm not good enough type of mentality.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from. Like, aside from the gym too, that's like a really good example. Even journalizing is really important too, because if you kind of like journal your thoughts out every day and your accomplishments, if you journal long enough and you have like 6 months worth of journal entries, you can kind of see from day one to all the way up to 6 months how much you've changed your thought process, what you've accomplished, and things like that. But yeah, as long as you like benchmark yourself and definitely don't compare yourself to everyone in an envious way. I think, yeah, you can definitely beat imposter syndrome.
Yeah, yeah. Like I personally haven't done the journal thing, but It sounds like a good strategy, like different things for different people. When you're going to the gym, it's about taking photos, and then that's like your data, which you can look at 6 months later and see, like you can visibly see the progress. For something like Schulich, a journal would be a good idea to see how far you've come. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Speaking about journalizing too, I know as Schulich clubs are pretty important too. How important do you feel like clubs were in your first year, knowing that you're in two clubs?
Um, First of all, if you're at since like first semester, I was just a member. You can still get some benefits out of being a member through like case competitions, for instance. Like I got an interview for a company because of winning a case competition. It didn't work out in the end because they said they're delaying their internship into the fall. That was a little sad, but that's one opportunity. As a member, there's a bunch of things you can attend which can still help you out. Like I know, like for instance, the consulting club has great workshops and like information sessions going on. Attend those. That can give you the information that me and you were talking about we wish we had in first year, or like as case competitions I said. And then being actually part of a club can give you that experience where you can bring up in interviews, right? Because that's what it's all about. Like you can be like, yeah, I had this experience, I used this transferable skill here. So it's very valuable. But I think after you get like a great internship experience, then at that point it might be more of a passion project. Because if you have real internship experience, that's probably more relevant. But still, the transferable skills would still be there, obviously, and it might be a more fun thing to do, I'd say, rather than useful for which is for us right now. It's very useful. Later on, it just might become more fun.
Yeah, I can definitely see your viewpoint on that. And I know you touched a bit about how general members can also benefit, but do you feel like do you need one at least one executive position on your resume to succeed in the recruitment process or as Schulich in general?
You should definitely be striving for it, I'd say. Because an executive position, like not only does it give you more work, it also shows wherever you're applying that you have something you're passionate about and then you went on and did something with it. So like a lot if you have just you wouldn't really be able to put a member on your resume because then that shows like is this a person even interested for that? Like if they're just a member. If you have an executive position, it shows them like, oh, like he put in the effort. Like this is actually a passion of his. So yeah, that advice, and I learned this lesson in high school where like yeah, we were kind of bombarded with COVID. I didn't have a lot of extracurricular experience going into grade 12. Then in grade 12, when we went in person, that's when I sort of realized that okay, I need to amp this up and I need to get executive positions and I need to experience that leadership which all these roles give. So I'm happy I learned that lesson in grade 12. So that in Schulich, I realized that those executive positions are are really really crucial and are a great thing to strive for. So yeah, definitely people who are interested in the club be going for those executive positions, I'd say, as the ultimate goal.
I guess moving on towards like the commuter aspect of Schulich, I know Schulich is more of a commuter school. How do you feel like your social life at Schulich was? And are you a commuter, by the way?
Yeah, I am a commuter. My commute is it's a 10-minute drive to the bus stop, and then the go bus usually takes like 55 to an hour. And then now I have to take the subway too. I think like 3, 4 years ago you didn't have to take the subway to York, but now the bus drops you off at the subway and it's like a 2-minute subway, but sometimes you have to wait for it to come. So overall it's like an hour 20 long commute, right? And honestly, I wouldn't say it's bad at all. I'd say that the thing is when you're at Schulich, it's like high school. You see the same people every day. You're able to like vibe and chat with people, pretty easily. But the thing is then after Schulich, like that's where I guess the where you have to put an effort. If you arrange something to hang out with friends like on campus, but if everyone is off campus, then one might be in Scarborough, one might be in Mississauga, then like you have to put in that effort, right? So it's not impossible to have a social life. Like as I said, the workload is manageable. So there is time to hang out with friends, but you have to be willing to put in that effort. Which if you don't put in the effort directly, then you might not, be able to hang out. And also use social media. Like if people are a distant away, like be the guy who creates the group chat or be the guy who texts someone or calls someone, just because like you have to put in that effort if you're looking for a good social life. because it is a commuter school and people might be far away.
Do you have any like final advice for upcoming first years?
Final advice for upcoming first years. Okay. I'd say like as we said here, like speak to upper years and learn more about the game. Like the recruitment game, the resume game, the cover letter, speaking to people, learning from people. Know that stuff early on, because some people like the finance bros know it going in, and then they have a better time, right? So that's like that aspect. The second aspect would be for your academics, don't do what you did in high school. You have to treat each individual course differently. For accounting, you just do a bunch of practice and you should be good to go, right? But that's you don't use the same strategy for MGMT, right? For that you want to know you kind of want to know the professor and what the professor is looking for. Like some courses you want to know the professor and see like what is he looking for, what has he been teaching us this whole semester that I can show that look, I'm doing what you told me, and then that can get you a good grade. But yeah, like you have to think of it differently than in high school, because as I said, all the people coming into Schulich, most of them had 90 averages, right? So if everyone hands in that 90% level of high school work, it's gonna get a 75. That's how it is. You have to do something different, to be honest. You have to go above and beyond for some courses to get above average. Whereas and then there's other courses that's just like accounting, like econ, just like you're either right or you're wrong, right? There's no like going above and beyond there. That is just studying, practicing, and getting the correct answers. So yeah, I'd say for coursework, speak to upper years as well, learn about the strategy for each course, and that can help you succeed.
Yeah, 100%. I definitely agree with Management 1000 too. I feel like I think the first week or the second week when we got that first assignment of we had to like write about something, a lot of people did really bad. And then like I remember Graham Deeds telling us that there's like a different way of writing in business. So I feel like that's again one huge skill that people learn to like
Yeah,
writing in high school and writing in business is completely different. Because like I remember Graham Deans wanted just like 5 or 6 bullet points, and we're like used to writing like paragraphs on paragraphs of for
yeah,
stuff. But yeah, I can definitely see where you're coming from.
yeah. Different writing methods for different quizzes. For history of capitalism, it's more like English. For MGMT, no, you have to like consolidate and learn, like listen to what the professor is looking for. Like I'm telling you, like I did really well in the MGMT course, and like that was my strat. I listened to what the professor was looking for.
Yeah, definitely. Your TAs are like a really good guide too because they kind of know what the prof is looking for. And I
Mhm.
remember like sometimes TAs can give really good tips that like what Grand Deans is specifically looking for. And if you apply that for the final exam, because like the final exam basically was like given to us,
Com-
like
yeah,
it was like pretty late. So as long as you apply all the information and all the things that you learned from your courses to like the final aspects of it, it's not going to be that hard, in my opinion.
yeah. I did the final exam at like 12 a.m. from 12 a.m. to 2 a.m. because I had no other choice, bro. It was do that or bomb the next exam I had coming up.
What was your next exam?
Accounting, because I did that on like Saturday and I had accounting on Monday. So I needed Sunday to study for accounting because I hadn't touched it. Like, bro, that exam season, I studied accounting for 8 hours. I timed it and I paused the timer every time I went to the bathroom or was eating. So I literally know like on Sunday I studied accounting for 8 hours and then on Monday I gave the exam. And then for the gram thing, like on Saturday, I was working all on the assignment portion, and that was only worth like 10%. The quiz was worth like 20%. And then it was 12 a.m. and I'm like, oh my God, I haven't even done the quiz. I can't do the quiz on Sunday. I need to be studying for accounting. So I'm like, nah, this is my only choice. I gotta do it from 12 to 2. It worked out. I'll be honest, it worked out.
Yeah, you bring up another good point too. I feel like people spend too much time on things that are worth like 5%,
Yeah.
especially Management 1000, those discussion posts. I remember spending like hours on them, and they're like, what, worth what? How much? Like 10% of your grade or something?
Yeah. Yeah. All
Yeah.
of them combined. You have to be able to prioritize. Yeah, for sure. Oh, and one thing for first years is the course selection. Like you're if you can get a 3 times per week schedule and you're a commuter, that's chill. Like, oh my God. Some of the people at Schulich, like the advisors, they tell you get a 5 times per week schedule. That is the biggest bait I've ever heard. A 5 times per week schedule, you're not doing well. If you have a 5 times, you're not gonna do well because you actually get work done when you have a free day. If it's like you have no lectures, that's the day you're gonna get work done. So if you have like 3 times per week classes, just do the classes and then do everything else. And also, like, you have to strategically skip classes. Like I skipped every single econ tutorial in macro econ, every single one. And when the exam was in person, I thought it was gonna be like that Zoolander meme where professor looking at me after like I skipped all 12 classes. Like because she must have thought I dropped the course. But I skipped every single tutorial and I got an insane, really insane mark, better than I got for micro, which I attended like half the tutorial. So you have to also know like which can you skip. I skipped every accounting tutorial too in second semester. So so there's some time management strategies you have to do, right? Speak to people and like be like, okay, if they did it, maybe I should do it too.
Yeah, definitely. I know what econ, like when you first start out, you kind of feel like you have to attend all the tutorials, but then you realize you can just do iClicker from home, you know?
Yeah, I like the first day I asked my friends, wait, guys, can't I do this at home? And one guy was like, you could try, but it's risky. And then when like by the time week 4 came out, I started to know people who took the risk and it worked. I'm like, okay, I'm staying home.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I do the profs know. I feel like they do. Once they see empty classrooms, they know like half of the bands are taking it like
I wouldn't know. I would not know because like I don't even know how many people started showing up and how many people skipped because I was one of the first skippers. So like who knows what happened after I left.
yeah, definitely. I don't think I have any other questions, but I do like really appreciate your time today. I
Yeah,
feel
no, it
like
is fun.
yeah, I feel like even as like a as someone going into second year, it's always interesting to see other people's perspectives of how they found first years, and it's also like pretty wild to see like everyone like found first year different in their own ways, and they came out of first year with new things that they've learned. So yeah,
Yeah.
and I wish you the best of luck for second year too, because I've heard that second year is gonna be a bit brutal, but then some people say it's not brutal. I don't know. It's been like on the fence.
I don't know, man. Like, I feel like a lot of what everyone says is always bait. Like, I remember it's one person said macro econ is so much easier than micro. And while both were like A plusable, macro was definitely harder, even though, okay, I'll tell you that off camera. But like macro was definitely harder, bro. But so like I don't know who's gaslighting and who's what. But like some people say I'm not that worried. It's probably like 15% harder than first year. It should be fine, to be honest. Just put in the work.
Yeah, I also like kind of agree with you. I feel like upper years kind of also exaggerate how hard some courses can be. Like for
Yeah.
accounting too, like if you've done all the practice questions, and honestly, like I'll leave this for out of camera too, but like if as long as you do your stuff, like if you're up to date with all the homework you're supposed to be doing, you can definitely get an A or an A plus in the course.
Yeah, I agree. Like some courses they said aren't A plusable or A plusable. Like it's just about knowing the strat.
Yeah, I think for us, almost 1050 was pretty much like it was a wild card. Like we didn't know what to
Yeah.
expect. It was like the first time we were taking it, so like no one could really help us. But in the end, like you kind of you know what? I'll leave that for off camera too. But we're like almost
Yeah.
with almost, it's like it's a different story. Yeah, as
Yeah,
you'll
yeah.
figure it out as you start almost, but it's not that difficult of a course in my opinion.
Yeah. It's yeah, it's definitely not.